Hi, everyone. I'm Calvin Johnston. I'm a family doctor practicing in Toronto. I like to say part-time doctor, part-time nerd. This is my first foray into developing a web tool to help physicians improve quality of care, quality of life for physicians. I've got a lot of interest in Facebook. Thanks a lot to everyone who's expressed interest. I'm pretty excited. Hopefully, this is something that you'll find you'll want to try. So I'm just making this video to show a little bit more detail about the app and how it works. So I've called it Atriamd, and the basic idea is that it allows the patient to enter their reason for visit and then gather routine robotic elements of the HPI related to that, things like pertinent positives, pertinent negatives, risk factors, aggravating and alleviating factors, and so on. And it can gather past medical history and medication lists for new patients. And then it condenses those responses and provides a summary for the physician that's succinct and chart friendly that you can, at this point, copy from the app into the EMR. And then when you're in the room with the patient, you can read through, confirm it for accuracy, modify as needed. And then kind of that's the bulk of your subjective section. And then you're just left with the objective assessment and plan. And as time goes forward, I could, integrate more features that help with those sections. But for right now, it's really focused on the subjective section. And the main benefits to you would be the documentation, obviously, but you'd also have a patient who's more prepared for your visit, who's been sort of primed about, when did it start, and, what is making it worse, and who's sort of thought about those things. So it makes for a smoother, faster visit. And so I do have a demo website that shows how things work from the patient's perspective in terms of the logic and adapting to what the patient's put in and creating documentation, but it doesn't really show how things work from the physician's side and protecting the patient's privacy and that kind of thing. So that's why I'm putting this video together. So the basic concept is that your admin assistant will generate a unique ID and URL for each patient. You send the patient that URL link by text or email, and then the responses come back to you tied to that link. But that ID is not attached to any patient identifiers like name or birth date or anything that would allow the patient to be identified outside of, in the outside world. And then your admin assistant keeps track of which patient, which ID within the app goes with which patient in the real world. You can put in chart numbers on the app to help facilitate that, since only people in your EMR will know which chart number goes with which patient. Or you can keep a separate log in Excel or paper and pencil if you want. So let me show you how it works. Okay, so on the very right, you'll see a simulation of the patient's phone. I'll come back to that in a second, but on the left, you see the screen of the admin assistant. So on the left there, you have the provider dashboard, which allows the admin assistant to create and manage the patient's the IDs. And on the right, this would be where the EMR would sit, for example. So you could use the chart number, or if you wanted some initials here, anything that's not a unique identifier to the patient. And so you can choose to use just general questions, or you could do COVID screening, or a combination of the two. You can skip some demographic questions by selecting a demographic in here. And if the patient's been here before, you can skip some of the past medical history and medication questions, clicking there. You create the ID, that creates the new ID and a URL that's generated for your patient. You can send that to the patient either by smartphone, SMS down here, or you can send it to them by email. So I'll just use the texting facility here. So the patient will receive that link and be able to pull up the app on their screen. So I'll show you quickly just the patient going through. You will be able to see this in more detail if you use the live demo, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. So we'll just put in cough and sort of answer no to all the pertinent negatives and that kind of thing. But as I say, if you wanted to see this in more detail, have a look at the live demo that I'll link to as well. Okay, so now that the patient is complete, you can see the ID showing up down here under finished, and you'll know which ID which patient matches this ID. You can click view to see the summary of the responses. You can copy that into the appropriate patient's chart, and then clear the clipboard to make sure it doesn't get copied elsewhere, and delete the patient, and that completely removes all the patient data from the app. That's the basic workflow. Also address a couple of questions that I anticipate from you guys. So in terms of cost, there is no cost to use the app at this point. Medium to long term, I would like to monetize it in some way. I hope that it's enough benefit to you that you'd be willing to pay for it and to justify me spending more time on it. But for now, at least for the first, users who would like to try it in clinic and get active with it, I will allow, be letting you use it for free of charge. And, I appreciate any support and feedback you can provide. And so I will create a new Facebook group for those who are interested in following the app or trying it. And just to keep things off of the First 5 Years Forum to respect their space. And so if you guys have any questions or you're interested in looking into this further in terms of you using it with patients in your clinic, get in contact with me. You can either respond on Facebook or you can email me at atriamd.com, CALVIN@atriamd.com. Yeah, so thanks for watching the video, and hopefully we can move this forward together, and hope to hear from you. Take care. Bye-bye.